This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Guinea's ruling junta says it will not bow to pressure to let deposed President Condé leave the country. Algeria's former president Abdelaziz Bouteflika dies at 84. And South Sudanese people engage in a debate on a new constitution. Hello and welcome. You're watching Africa Live. We're coming to live from Nairobi. I'm Hannah Viviers. Here are more stories making headlines this hour. In business news, Ghana signs a $1.2 billion deal to develop its bauxite resources. And in sports, Senegal Lionesses in pursuit of history as the 2021 Women's Afro Basket tips off in Cameroon. We'll begin the bulletin in Guinea, where the military junta has maintained that it will not yield to any pressure. The junta leader, Lieutenant Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, said this on Friday after meeting with leaders of the West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS. Here's CGTN's Wanja Mugai with the details.
ECOWAS has been demanding the release of deposed and former President Alpha Condé. ECOWAS leaders are also urging Lieutenant Colonel Mamadou Doumbouya to ensure a return to constitutional order. The ECOWAS delegation held talks with Doumbouya on Friday. Among the representatives from the bloc were Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo and Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara. The leaders said they had a successful meeting with the Guinean junta.
We had very honest brotherly meetings with Lieutenant Colonel Doumbouya and his associates, and I think ECOWAS and Guinea will find a way to work together.
We've had an excellent stay in Conakry. I would like to thank you, my brother, President Doumbouya, the CNRD president, and say that we have had a very good meeting. President Nana Akufo-Addo, whom I joined, just told you the essential points. So we also met my brother Alpha Condé, who is doing well and will stay in contact. Thank you to the people of Guinea.
The two heads of state did not disclose any information on progress of their efforts to try and secure Condé's release. The deposed leader has been in custody of the military junta since his overthrow a fortnight ago. Previously, opposition leader Cellou Dalein Diallo had offered to be part of the transition government. In the meantime, Doumbouya is expected to hold a press conference on Saturday. Wanja Mungai, CGTN.
Well, France is turning up the pressure on the US and Australia. Paris recalled its ambassadors to the two countries, furious over being cut from a submarine deal. Russ Cullen has more.
A serious escalation of the situation, with France recalling its ambassadors to the United States, to Australia. Over the last few days, we've seen a deterioration of the situation when it comes to the diplomatic language that is being used. France describing what Australia did in breaking off that pact it had with France to design and develop nuclear-powered submarines. The Naval group, the French defence contractors, were meant to be providing 12 nuclear-powered submarines to Australia. Australia broke off that deal, signed another pact with the United States, with the United Kingdom. As far as France is concerned, that pact was signed behind France's back. All of a sudden, a shock. I mean, when it was first announced, the French foreign minister had to release a communique in the middle of the night. Such was the speed that France had to react to this sudden decision. On the 17th of September, there was meant to be a gala dinner being hosted in the French embassy in Washington, D.C. to mark 240 years since, ironically, a French naval victory over the British paved the way for American independence from Great Britain. That gala dinner had already been cancelled due to the seriousness of the situation, and now we have the news that France is recalling its ambassadors. Philippe Etienne is the French envoy in Washington, D.C., and he confirmed the news on Friday evening, saying that he is being recalled due to a situation which is based on the fact that allies are not behaving with the behavior that is expected of partners. It's unacceptable behavior, and due to that reason, the threatening of the vision of alliances, the threatening of the vision of partnerships. So this situation, which began with the decision by Australia to sign up to that new pact AUKUS, we are calling it, Australia, the United Kingdom and the United States, the pact to develop nuclear-powered submarines for Australia, using the United States and the United Kingdom expertise. France has been furious ever since that came through that news, and has been trying to come up with a reaction and trying to smooth out the situation. Such an old ally, such a crucial ally for France, the United States. Those two ancient republics really are such deep allies, and this move to recall the ambassador to the United States, along with the French envoy in Canberra, really a serious escalation of the situation. Ross Cullen, CGTN in Paris.
Well, ahead of the UN General Assembly to be held next week, the United States says that it would delay sanctions over the conflict in northern Ethiopia if warring parties take meaningful steps to come to the negotiating table. A new executive order allows Washington to take punitive action against parties involved in the conflict. Since November, fighting between the Ethiopian government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front has increased. Thousands have been killed and millions are in need of urgent humanitarian assistance.
If the government of Ethiopia and the Tigray People's Liberation Front take meaningful steps to enter into talks without preconditions and allow unhindered humanitarian assistance, the United States is prepared to mobilize assistance for Ethiopia to recover and revitalize its economy and build a future for its people. Otherwise, we will impose targeted sanctions against a range of responsible individuals and entities. These sanctions are not directed at the people of Ethiopia or Eritrea. They are deliberately calibrated to mitigate undue harm. Instead, they will target those responsible for the conflict, and hopefully they will hopefully help bring an end to the suffering of the Ethiopian people.
Well, CGTN's Guram Chala has been following this story closely for us, and he joins us now from Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa. Hi, Guram. Has there been a response from Ethiopian authorities, and what should we expect from this particular threat of external sanctions?
Well, Hannah, Ethiopian authorities and even people on the streets of Addis Ababa that we try to speak to are expressing their unhappiness with the continuous reports, negative ones most of the time, if you like, according to them, from the United States about the situation in the northern part of Ethiopia. As you know, the United States is a strategic ally to the Ethiopian government, an old friend, if you like, as well. But these statements, including the recent one of trying to slam sanctions against the country or other individuals in the nation, is a reason for most people to cry foul and call on the United States to think about its decisions. The authorities say, Hannah, that the United States lacks a deeper understanding of the situation on the ground in the northern part of the country. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has written an open letter, Hannah, to President Joe Biden. On the statement, it says, the destructive criminal clique adept at propaganda and is spinning international human rights and democracy machination to its favor. It cries wolf when it leaves no stone unturned in its mission to destroy a nation of more than 3,000 years of history. He is saying that the TPLF is crying foul, and again, it is destroying the country by waging war in different parts of the country. The TPLF is also accusing the government of escalating the already bad situation in the northern part of the country and the humanitarian situation at the same time. But the reaction from the Prime Minister and other authorities is unhappiness in general terms, and they want the United States to reconsider its decisions every step of the way, Hannah.
Guram, what are you hearing about the options the Ethiopia government has to decisively bring an end to the conflict with the TPLF?
Well, everyone we spoke to want the end of this conflict in the north with TPLF peacefully. The end, however, does not just come out of the blue. The government is proposing a national dialogue, which is now under formulation according to authorities that we have spoken to yesterday and this morning at the same time. They're saying that this national dialogue can bring solution to the northern part of the country's conflicts between the TPLF and mostly of government forces. You know that Ethiopia has its own mechanisms, cultural and otherwise, and government officials are confident that if harnessed very well, this can bring a solution, peaceful solution to the conflict in the north without any third-party interference. So Ethiopia must be left alone to resolve its own problems without forgetting the fact that the African Union, the United Nations, and even the US government are a crucial part of this dialogue, which is proposed by the government. So we have to wait and see, Hannah, if the government's plan of resolving the conflict in the north on its own using national resource is going to work or not. But for now, that is the proposal, national dialogue to peacefully resolve the northern conflict.
Garam, thank you so much for following this story for us so very closely. We'll continue to hear from you on developments. Garam Chala speaking to us from Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa. Well, we head over to Algeria now, where former President Abdelaziz Bouteflika has died at the age of 84. The presidency made the announcement on a Friday. Bouteflika led Algeria for almost 2 decades. His death marks the end of an era for Algeria, as CGTN's Notula Shabalala now reports.
Abdelaziz Bouteflika was born on 2nd March 1937 in the Algerian border town of Ouja near the Moroccan border. He fought for independence from France in the 1950s and 1960s. In 1962, he served in Algeria's first post-colonial government as the Minister of Youth and Sports. A year later, he was appointed Minister of Foreign Affairs. He rose through the ranks to take office in 1999 as Algeria's first civilian leader. Bouteflika was among Algeria's most enduring politicians. As an oil-rich country, Algeria saw a modernization of its infrastructure under Bouteflika. However, development was accompanied by allegations of widespread corruption. A 2008 constitutional amendment that removed presidential term limits allowed him to have a 3rd and 4th term in office. Bouteflika endured ill health. After suffering a crippling stroke in 2013, he retreated from the public limelight. Critics were concerned that he was not able to carry out his duties. But Bouteflika maintained his grip on power. He was forced to resign in April 2019 after street demonstrations erupted against his plan to seek a 5th term. Noktula Shabalala, CGTN.
Well, let's head over to East Africa now, where severe drought in Kenya's arid and semi-arid areas is putting hundreds of children at risk of dropping out of school. As CGTN's Daniel Arab Moy reports, many have already been forced to stay at home as their families struggle to earn a living.
Juma Fondo is a mother of 11 struggling to take care of her family. Fondo lives in Kenya's coastal county of Kilifi, one of the 10 most affected by drought. 5 of our children have dropped out of school. Harvesting wild aloe vera is one business Fondo is holding on to support the family.
I am trying my level best to harvest the aloe vera plant to support my children. The drought has not made it easy for us, but I can't just give up. I need to make some money.
This aloe vera plant is what many families here extract and sell to make a living.
Right now, if there's anything that can support the livelihood, like relief food first, then the rest.
The mother of 11 relies on this small saucepan to feed just a handful of her children. Felista Kalum is one among many girls that dropped out of school due to the prolonged drought.
It's so bad that when it comes to school, we go and we're forced to come back home. We can't afford food, let alone tuition.
In the nearby Katama Primary School in Kenya's coastal town of Kilifi, teachers are struggling to get the children to pay attention in class.
It has become a challenge to the children. Sometimes if we are just teaching, some of them are just sleeping.
In this school alone, over 70 children are not attending classes due to drought.
Family can't support the learners in terms of food. And if at all they can support, it is just a meal, I can say, per day or a meal in 48 hours, which cannot make the learner to concentrate in class.
Gerald Tumaini is a class 8 pupil at Kilifi's Katama Primary School.
When I come to school, when I'm hungry, I can't concentrate in my studies well. In the class, when the teacher is talking, then I'm feeling hungry, I will fall asleep.
Across Africa, rising sea levels and extreme weather events are evidence of a rapidly changing climate and an urgent need for solutions. The United Nations Environment Agency says it's committed to addressing climate change issues.
We can't undo the mistakes of the past, but this generation of political and business leaders, this generation of conscious citizens, can make things right.
According to the Kenyan government, over 2 million people have been affected by the drought. The East African country has declared the drought a national disaster, with a raft of mitigation measures expected to follow. Daniel Arap Moi, CGTN, Kilifi, Kenya.
Well, the United States says that last month's deadly drone strike near the Kabul airport was a tragic mistake. An investigation revealed that the bombing killed 10 civilians, not terrorists plotting an attack. CGTN's Nathan King has more.
Zamari Ahmadi was a long-time U.S. aid worker in Afghanistan, but that was his last day, August 29th. He and 9 other members of extended family killed in a U.S. drone strike. 7 children, the youngest being 2. Basically, at the time, the U.S. defended their decision. They said they'd been monitoring his car for around 8 hours, and they thought there was the transfer of explosives and a second explosion after they hit with a drone strike. They defended that up until the last, but unfortunately for the Pentagon is that there was a New York Times investigation as well as other media as well. And essentially what they said was this, that it looked like it was Ahmadi and his family that had been killed and a horrible mistake had been made. Well, the Pentagon have admitted that mistake. Mark Money, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, wrote in a statement saying this: in a dynamic, high-threat environment, the commanders on the ground had appropriate authority and had reasonable certainty that the target was valid. But after a deeper post-strike analysis, our conclusion is that innocent civilians were killed. This is a horrible tragedy of war, and it's heart-wrenching, and we are committed to be fully transparent about this incident. Of course, this incident, as the Pentagon called it, came 3 days after the attack on Kabul airport, which of course killed 140 civilians and 13 US Marines. This was one of the last acts of the US as they left Kabul, one of the many drone strikes over 20 years, which killed uncounted thousands of people, not always with a New York Times investigation. Nathan King, CGTN, outside the White House.
Well, let's now take a short break and return. More on Africa Live, including South Sudanese people engage in debate on new constitution, and Zimbabwe bars unvaccinated government employees from work.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo,
Juba,
Johannesburg, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. You're watching Africa Live. Well, let's revisit that story in the United States, saying that last month's deadly drone strike near the Kabul airport was a tragic mistake. An investigation revealed that the bombing killed 10 civilians and not terrorists plotting an attack. Well, for further reaction from Afghanistan, we're joined by Zmarilai Abbasin, who is in the Afghan capital, Kabul. Thank you so much for joining us, Zmarilai. Just speak to us about the reaction from the Taliban, from the United States statement that what this drone attack was a tragic mistake. What has the Taliban's response been to that statement?
Hello. Well, we talked with Taliban spokesperson and now Deputy Minister for the Culture and Information Ministry, Zabiullah Mujahid. He told us that this was not the first time that the U.S. has struck the people in Afghanistan and the civilians were killed by their airstrikes. Before that, since last 20 years, that was a routine, according to Zabiullah Mujahid, that the U.S. has been committing. According to him, the apologies doesn't make any sense now, and the United States have committed the war crimes in the country, and also the anger has been sparkling towards United States of America, not now because of that the U.S. has confessed this, but also before that the family who have lost their 20 member and loved ones in that drone airstrike in Kabul on 29th of August. They say apologies make no sense for them, and it cannot bring back their loved ones again to life, and they really are angry about this. While the United States of America have been really doing this since last 20 years, even in many occasions, the former Afghan National and Security Defense Forces were shot and fired by the U.S. strikes. In 2015, a checkpost of the police in Logar province was hit, where at least 13 policemen were killed by the U.S. strike, and they said that was a mistake. And another strike also in Helmand province, where at least 22 ANDSF members were killed in a same airstrike. Not only limited to the civilian and ANDSF forces and the so-called mistaken attacks of the United States of America and coalition forces, but in 2015, and 3rd of October, the MSF hospital in Kunduz province of Afghanistan was also hit by gunship of the United States, AC-130 gunship, which shelled 211 fires on the hospital, where there was no armed men in the hospital, according to the MSF officials at that time. So that's been a routine in Afghanistan, and there is numerous attacks similar to Kabul attack of 29th of August.
Well, Zmarilai, let's move on to this UN report that was recently released, saying that 97% of Afghans could be living in extreme poverty soon. What is the current economic and humanitarian situation there?
First of all, it's really important to talk about those maximum $9 billion of Afghanistan assets which are frozen by international community, and $7 billion only by the United States of America. So these are like the bloods and vein of Afghanistan financial and monetary society. If it's still frozen, there is no other option available to finally find a positive and logical way for a normal society where the people could find jobs, where the businesses could extend or at least stay operated. Yet this is the concern for the people of Afghanistan, the looming economic crisis, which is also related and interconnected with a humanitarian crisis in the country. Millions of people are already unemployed since last 1 month, and millions other are losing their jobs, while also 50% of the female workers are mostly those who are not yet able to join their offices, because the Taliban say they are making the regulations and want to make separate offices for the women in many governmental offices, while there are private sector in Afghanistan which is also struck because of the changes since last 1 month. And all the people, particularly the breadwinners who have the life of daily wages in the country, not only capital Kabul, but in any area of the Afghanistan, which are millions of people now jobless, and they have a really bad and looming humanitarian situation. They have nothing to eat in many areas. In only capital Kabul, there are tens of thousands of families which are sleeping now without having even a loaf of bread on their table. So that's the latest situation. If it continues and the assets of Afghanistan is still frozen by the international community, there is much more possibility of a humanitarian crisis, which would be unprecedented in Afghanistan.
Zmarilai, thank you so much for all those details. Zmarilai Abbasan speaking to us from Afghanistan. Well, to South Sudan now, where the country recently celebrated its 3rd anniversary of the signing of the revitalized peace agreement. This milestone has now made people across the country begin an important debate about a new permanent constitution. Here's CGTN's Jane Keo with the details.
The United Nations mission in South Sudan says the constitution-making process in the nation is an important peace process benchmark. According to the mission's chief, Nicholas Haysom, the process will signify a social contract between all South Sudanese, guiding how they can live together in peace and harmony. Many South Sudanese agree with Haysom.
To me, a people-driven constitution-making process and the product is a process whereby people are allowed to speak, but also an environment is created, a conducive environment for everybody to air out their views and aspirations in regard to what kind of constitution we want. And not to forget, a constitution at this moment is not just South Sudanese developing a constitution, or it's not that we are renewing a social contract. In the first place, we actually need to cultivate and establish a social contract.
To support this public debate, UNIMIS, together with a local non-governmental organization, hosted a special 2-day workshop. Participants included representatives of political parties, universities, think tanks, civil society, women and youth groups, media, and the international partners in the peace process.
The constitution-making process is very important, and with the as I said to you earlier, with the inauguration of TNLA and the Parliament, you now have that legislature, and this is the moment to make sure and to support widespread consultations throughout the country, so everybody feels included and able to project their own voice.
The country's new constitution has already been drafted. It will be ultimately voted on by the newly reconstituted Transitional National Legislative Assembly. Political leaders are urging the government to support the process.
Without requisite political, financial, and administrative support from the Artigonu, the constitution-making process shall be wishful thinking. It shall never proceed or succeed.
South Sudanese leaders say everyone in the country should have an opportunity to understand the new constitution. This will enable them to actively participate in crafting it. Jane Keo, CGTN.
Well, Zimbabwe has barred unvaccinated government workers from work, saying they've been given an ample time to get inoculated, but still defied a state directive. The Southern African nation says it's taken the measure to minimize health risks to the public and other employees. Farai Mokutuya reports.
This is one of the main government complexes in Harare. For the past few weeks, the only visitors allowed in had to be vaccinated. The restrictions have now been extended to people who work inside this building. Government has begun implementing a rule that bars unvaccinated civil servants from reporting for duty. They will forego pay for the missed days and could lose their jobs altogether if they refuse to get the jab. Trade unions have criticized the directive.
What we are against is when then you have someone who is not vaccinated for whatever reason and then to be discriminated. We do have a challenge with that until when we have a legislation that then forces everyone.
However, some ordinary citizens back the government's move.
Yes, I support that. Because, why must you be a danger to those other people who have put some safety around you and the others? Because the moment if you are selfish, then you say that I'm not going to be vaccinated, you are going to be the killer. Right. Hence, I'm saying everybody needs to be vaccinated.
There are fears some may end up making an uninformed decision.
Some people are just doing it so that they can fit into their community where they're supposed to be. But if you ask them questions, did you do it willingly? And were you aware that if you get this injection, these are the repercussions? Most of the people doesn't have that education.
With a court ruling pending over a challenge to mandatory vaccination orders given by some employers, the country could be entering a legal minefield.
Legislation would not resolve this challenge, because the question becomes, we are talking about the right to conscience. So even if you are going to put in a law to say everyone should get vaccinated, what are we saying about your right to conscience, your right to opinion? But at the same time, what also are we saying about the broader public rights or for public health?
According to the government, 90% of people hospitalized for COVID-19 are not vaccinated. Farai Mwakutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Well, the mayor of Tunis has decried the illegal dumping of waste by people who continually disobey city bylaws, endangering the environment in the process. Suad Abderrahim says Tunis municipality workers have started cleaning up and unclogging the city's drainage systems ahead of expected rains. As Adnan Shuashi now reports, people found littering the city could face significant fines.
The mayor of Tunis says stopping the spread of illegal open dumps is a top priority. Despite the measures taken by the authorities, tons of construction and demolition debris are dumped on roadsides. Therefore, changing attitudes and fighting this irresponsible behavior has become a key goal of local authorities. Hundreds of municipal workers collect debris and trash as they try to keep the city of Tunis clean.
Open dumps are empty locations which become open-air dumps. Even when we provide street bins, some people throw trash on the ground. The Tunis municipality dedicated several places and dumpsters for construction waste, but it appears many people don't use them. They just throw the waste on the road and disregard the laws. Our agents collect it, but this is an endless operation. The problem is that we do not have the means to enforce anti-littering laws.
The mayor added that seasonal rains usually cause widespread damage in this city. Therefore, the municipality of Tunis has launched a large-scale operation to maintain sewer and drainage systems. The capital city, Tunis, is now ready for the rainy season.
In partnership with many departments, we started in August to prepare for the rainy season in September by cleaning waterways and sewers which are filled with debris and rubbish. Heavy rains cause floods. Cleaning the city is better than supporting the economic cost as well as social and environmental consequences of inaction.
Dr. Omar Naifer is the general coordinator of the environmental police. Since July 2017, throwing trash outside dumpsters or burning waste will incur fines between $16 and $24. And if an offense is deemed to be damaging public health, a prison term or higher fines between $120 and $400 can be imposed by Tunisia's Green Police.
The environmental police is facing many difficulties like a lack of personnel, equipment and means of transport. The municipality of Tunis is doing its best, but we only have 4 vehicles for some 15 municipal districts and 15 teams. This is not enough. Enhancing environmental protection and keeping our cities clean is complicated under these conditions. Some people seize this opportunity to challenge the environment authorities, but our role is to enforce the law.
The mayor of Tunis has urged the authorities to provide more human and logistical means in order to keep cities clean Environmental activists assert that Tunisia needs more laws to better protect the environment. Experts also insist on the importance of sensitization and awareness campaigns. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
We head over to South Africa, where scholars there have praised China's tremendous progress in space technology. Engineer Nyameko Roy has described Chinese space station as the establishment that has broken monopoly. Roy's statement comes after successful landing of the return capsule of the Shenzhou 12 manned spacecraft. The spacecraft, carrying 3 Chinese astronauts, returned to Earth on Friday after 3 months of constructing the space station in orbit. Roy also said that the station would allow third world countries an opportunity to enter space.
Right now, I would love to be Chinese. Because, I mean, probably today, the video that I saw, the guys, they were coming back. I mean, they are heroes. I mean, for me now, it's a moment to be proud of. That's a huge achievement. I mean, I would say, well done, you know. Yeah. In course, I'll say, the more we get people involved in space, the better. That makes things cheaper, and then you get more data out of that. So it's quite significant. I mean, it's something that each and every country should do. But unfortunately, due to resources, I mean, you can't. Not everybody can afford it, but it's a significant milestone to have another country building its own space station and operating it. For me, it's a huge milestone. It's quite significant for humankind. I mean.
Your business news after the show break. Here's what's coming up. Ghana signs a $1.2 billion deal to develop its bauxite resources. And Kenya's maize harvest expected to drop by 30% due to poor rainfall.
It's just taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time, it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Time now for the business news. Ghana has announced that it will be partnering with Rockshire International to establish its first bauxite refinery worth about $1 billion. Rockshire will also lead the construction of a 200 million bauxite mine at Niahinin, Mampaso in central Ghana. The Accra-based company will own a 70% stake in the project, and the state-owned Ghana Integrated Aluminum Development will have the remaining 30%. The state company is looking to partner with private companies to develop infrastructure worth as much as $6 billion to leverage Ghana's untapped bauxite sources. The West African nation's bauxite reserves are estimated at 900 million tons, with the potential to produce 10 million to 20 million tons a year. The World Bank is to give Cameroon concessional loans worth a total of $740 million to support development projects in the Central African economy. The funding is earmarked for an agriculture development project in northern Cameroon, a secondary education support project, the Cameroon-Chad Electricity Interconnection Project to allow the country to export power, and a women's initiative. Cameroon's Economy Minister Alamine Wassame May told reporters in the capital. Last month, the International Monetary Fund approved a 3-year financing arrangement worth nearly $700 million with the Central African country to help it recover from the effects of COVID-19 and pursue reforms. Well, Egypt's central bank kept its key interest rate on hold for a 7th consecutive time during its Monetary Policy Committee meeting this week. The committee retained the overnight lending rate at 9.25% and the overnight deposit rate at 8.25% since cutting rates by a total of 400 basis points back in 2020. The Apex Bank noted that economic activity in the North African state continues to recover from the pandemic, with leading indicators pointing towards a sustained strong pickup across most sectors. It, however, warned of an uptick in urban inflation, which rose to 5.7% in August, up from 5.4% in July and 4.9% in June. The Kenyan government says harvest of maize, the country's staple food, is expected to drop by 30%. The average for the long rain season harvest is usually 45 million bags of maize, but authorities estimate farmers will only harvest around 32 million bags of maize in the current period. The decline comes as the Kenya Meteorological Department expects October to December rains to be below normal levels. According to Kenya's food balance sheet, there will be a surplus of just about 18.2 million bags of maize. The government has, however, assured the East African economy has enough maize stock to cover until March of next year. Poor rains have also been affecting those farming crops with short maturity cycles, such as vegetables. Well, heading back to Egypt, mergers and acquisitions in the North African country have increased fourfold in the first half of 2021 to $4 billion from only $906 million in the same period last year. Egypt was also the highest target of mergers and acquisitions in the Middle East from foreign investors. From Cairo, Yasser Hakim reports on the reasons behind the growth.
It's been an active 2021. With mergers and acquisitions in the first half of the year exceeding the whole of 2020 in the North African country. Experts say this reflects the global economic optimism towards emerging markets like Egypt.
Egypt is in a very big economical reform, and now everything is turning to be attractive. When we see Egypt from a business perspective, we see a very big population, exceeding 100 million person, very rich in the resources, and competition is manageable, and cost of operation is still manageable and still efficient compared to operating costs for businesses across the world.
There were 111 transactions worth $4 billion, up from 906 million a year earlier. The health sector saw significant activity, such as the Cleopatra Hospital Group, acquiring several hospitals and medical centers. The financial sector followed, with Emirates' First Abu Dhabi Bank and Bahrain's ABC Bank buying out Lebanon's Audi and Bloom Bank's entire operations in Egypt. And there was also a boom in another sector.
Civil ride-hailing companies the best example of a new sector growing in acquisitions. We saw foreign companies buying other foreign companies based in Egypt, like Uber buying Careem, while Souk Egypt was lately acquired by Amazon. So the traditional heavy industries and sectors are not the only target, but there is growth in the app and online trading companies. It's happening in many countries worldwide, with tech companies and high-tech startups leading the M&S, and it's the same in Egypt.
Local transactions were 59 to 52 cross-border, while foreign investments in inbound M&As has increased by over 50% year-on-year.
Definitely we have a clear example of the investment from the United Arab Emirates in the real estate sector. And now it is maybe the biggest company that injected cash. I think it reached like 12.5 billion US dollars. Another sectors is the health sector is still very attractive. The tourism is very attractive. There's many sectors now that is raising flags for foreign investors to come and invest in Egypt.
Experts believe the economic recovery from the effects of the coronavirus pandemic will lead to even more mergers and acquisitions in 2022. Yes, Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
In mining, Harmony Gold has signed a 3-year wage deal with 5 South African worker unions. And as CGTN's Angela Koppel reports, it's the first time that Harmony has negotiated an agreement on its own instead of collectively with other companies under the Minerals Council of South Africa.
The total average wage increase negotiated is 7.8% in year 1, 7.4% in year 2, and 7% in year 3.
This is the first time I think that all the unions actually signed on the same day, so that is also quite historical. So we are very happy for the spirit in which the conversations took place, and obviously the outcome is a win for everybody.
The Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union is happy with the wage deal.
We believe that is a beginning of changing of their lives, as we have seen in the platinum sector where employees have changed lives. As we speak today, in the platinum sector, there is no employee who goes underground with less than 12,500 as a minimum basic salary. So this agreement paves way for that also to be achieved in the platinum in the gold sector.
The National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa maintains that gold mining companies can't argue against real salary increases given the booming commodity prices.
Well, it's been a difficult one. It's complex networking positions between us as unions. But I think at the end we remain very focused, persuading each other. We pushed the company, and the fact that it gave in, it demonstrates that united we stand, divided we fall.
The major union at Harmony, the National Union of Mine Workers, was excited about the wage deal and the fact that they didn't have to go on strike.
We are delighted that we have done our best to unite all the labor over this. We have shown that we are not greedy. We can accommodate everybody where we are the majority. But we also want to thank the Harmony that they've shown also the spirit in the gold sector. They've created us a space that when we go and negotiate with other mining houses, they will have then a benchmark with Harmony has done with us.
It's a first for Harmony, it's a first for these unions in that they dealt directly with each other and didn't involve the Minerals Council of South Africa. It seems it's come to an amicable solution, and it's a 3-year deal that everyone seems to be happy with. I'm Angelo Koppel for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Let's now take a short break. Your sport news coming up, including Senegal Lioness is in pursuit of history as the 2021 Women's Afro Basket tips off in Cameroon.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your game.
And now for the sport news. Senegal will open their FIBA Women's Afro-Basket campaign on Saturday when they take on West African neighbors Guinea in Group C. With an experienced roster, savvy head coach, and lots of ambition in the back, the Lionesses are pursuing history in Yaoundé. CGTN's Jen Keo reports.
The Senegalese female basketball players have been training at the Marius Ndiaye Stadium in Dakar for over a month. Under the watchful eyes of the technical bench, the Lionesses plotted their assault on the FIBA Women's Afro-Basket title. With several new players included in the side, the Senegalese team is well aware of the challenges that lie ahead.
This is my first time in the Afro-Basket because I'm new to the team. I'm delighted to be part of the group. I am learning every day from the former team members and the coaches who show us the way. So we will do everything to make everyone proud of us. We want to do well in Cameroon.
We are training hard to be ready for the 2021 Afro-Basket because we know the challenges ahead. Our goal is to go far in this competition, and we will do everything we can to get there. We know our future opponents very well because we have already played against them several times.
Head coach Mustafa Gaye is confident the 11-time women's Afro-Basket winners have done enough to prevail in the tournament.
Between the end of July and the beginning of August, we had 15 days of outdoor training where the girls made many sacrifices. Now we are in-house and the conditions are much better. I think the training sessions are going well. We are working on the patterns of play and how we want to play. We want to go to AfroBasket 2021 with the maximum assets to achieve our goals. The girls are showing every day that they are aware of what is at stake in this competition, and that motivates them a lot.
The team knows their status as the most successful women's basketball team in Africa will be tested to the limit.
Senegal is a great basketball country. For the 2021 AfroBasket, we hope to win the title again, but we know that it will be very difficult. There are very strong opponents such as Tunisia and Nigeria who have great players. We are looking forward to the competition and we promise our fans a great performance.
Egypt is the other team in Group C, where Senegal are expected to breeze past and seal automatic qualification to the quarterfinals. From there, the Lionesses hope it will be another successful outing in Cameroon, where they lifted the trophy in 2015. Jane Keo, CGTN.
Meanwhile, the Tunisian women's team is hoping to emulate their male counterparts who won the men's championship earlier this month in Kigali. The two-time silver medalists who are in Group D with Mali and Cote d'Ivoire eyeing their first title in Cameroon. CGTN's Adnan Shuashi tells us more.
Tunisia's women's basketball squad is led by Ricardo Gonzalez Davila. The head coach is hopeful that the 2021 AfroBasket performance will be better than that of the previous tournament in 2019.
We want to compete in the games. The federation is supporting us a lot, and they just ask the team to compete in the games, try to play in our best level. If our best level is enough to beat the other teams, amazing. If it's not enough, at least to try to play 100% every game.
Assistant coach Atif Mewa says the team needs to improve its technical and physical performance. The technical staff has invited new players to join the squad.
We're building a women's team starting from this AfroBasket because we plan to organize this tournament in 2024. We want to evaluate our real level and weaknesses. The Tunisia team is lagging behind in Africa, especially on the physical level, but we are not going to give up the fight. The team's average age is just 23.
The first match will be against Mali, then Cote d'Ivoire. We need to win at least one match to qualify for the next phase. It will be very difficult, but we are determined to win at least one match to qualify and face Egypt.
Domestic players started their preparations in Tunis in August.
The preparation started 6 weeks ago, and with a new coach and new spirit and new philosophy, we're working together for a new start in this AfroBasket.
Local basketball analysts say the team should improve on their poor showing at the last edition in Senegal. People here are hopeful that the Eagles of Carthage will improve their results in the 27th edition in Cameroon. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
Well, turning to the CAF Champions League, Kenya's Tusker FC will seek to advance the next phase of their competition when they host Arta Solar 7 of Djibouti in the second leg of their preliminary round clash in Nairobi on Saturday. Tusker holds the away goal advantage after forcing the Djibouti side to a 1-0 draw in the first leg played in Djibouti City last weekend. The Kenyan League winners conducted their final training for the match on Friday. Tanzanian forward Ibrahim Joshua, who netted their away goal, is the only injury concern. Speaking afterwards, head coach Robert Matano and his captain Eugene Asike exuded confidence that they would sail past the visitors, who boast a former AS Monaco striker Alain Traoré, who scored the equalizer for Arta, as well as ex-Arsenal and FC Barcelona midfielder Cameroon international Alex Song.
We are all in camp and have trained well. Everyone is fine except Ibrahim, who picked a knock in Djibouti, but he's trying to be fit. We would have won there, but the way we traveled made our levels drop slightly. We are now at home and have rested well, and the players have the energy, the spirit, and the desire to win the game. We are in good shape.
We have had a good training week. Everybody is really looking forward to the game tomorrow against Atasola. I believe going in tomorrow's game, now that we played our opponents, we have our work cut out. We know how to approach the game much better. The first leg, we didn't know much about our opponents, but once we played them, we picked up a few things that was going to help us in tomorrow's game. So come tomorrow, we're going to go out, a positive attitude, positive energy, and try to get the win.
Well, in other Saturday fixtures, Zambia's Zanaco takes a 2-0 lead from the first leg when they welcome Aku Nangui of Equatorial Guinea, with Amazulu of South Africa taking a 1-0 lead to Malawi's Big Bullets. Angola's Petro de Luanda host Fovo Club with the tie posted at 2-2 as FC Nouadhibou of Mauritania are at home to ESAE, locked at 1-0 from the first leg. Well, staying in